guys, if you happen to listen to this and you are going through something, it shall pass. There is nothing that doesn't pass in this life. That is why life is like the four seasons. It's winter, it's summer, it's spring, and it's autumn. So are our lives. You might be going through financial difficulties, unemployment, grief, pain, sickness. It shall pass. We all go through those things. I go through them too. Everybody in this life goes through them. I'm struggling with the light. It's the winter because I'm even sitting closer to the window hoping it would improve, but it still doesn't. Maybe I need to buy a bigger ring light so that we can get heat. Guys, I would like to tell you my story of which I call it from rags to riches. I'm not into riches yet, but I've seen riches and I know that I'm close. Remember, life is what you believe in. Remember to always confess something that is positive about you. You know, always have faith and never, ever, ever have negative declarations about yourself, because with our mouths we create. God, faith, or the universe, whatever you believe in, hears what we confess with our mouths and does exactly like that. So it's one book that I read says the force of gravity responds to whatever that we say. It has the power of positive attitude, positive feelings, and positive declarations. I would like to tell my story from how I was the most poor girl. That one who, when she is insulted, she's insulted of poverty of her home. Even relatives who have been poor themselves made fun of my poverty. Can you believe that? They were poor themselves, they know poverty, but they start making fun of our own poverty as if we're the first ones to be poor. Even a person who's been adopted and raised in another family had the audacity to laugh at our poverty because she got a man. She didn't even work, she got a man that managed to buy her food. So in this life we are hypocrites. Now let me tell you my story. At home we are 9. The third born of the family. My parents were married. When I was doing standard 1 or grade 3, my father stopped working. My mother was a domestic worker. So we, for the first time, had to, not for the first time, but we had to face poverty. And I knew from a young age that I needed to work hard to pass at school so that one day I take my family out of poverty. I knew that it was my responsibility. I don't know how I knew that. So at school, I always excelled. I can't go through all our poverty and ridicule. You know, there was a grandfather from the extended family who once said, when she saw us, she said she knew a family that used to be poor, and the children in that family used to go to the dustbins and take the orange pills and eat them. I don't know if he was insinuating that we must eat the dog pills. I am that woman when the extended family joked and said, when we are older, we will be employed by them. We will be washing their backs. We will be cleaning their shoes. By the time when they were saying that, they were asking us to wash their panties, to clean their hair, to clean their feet, and took that, treating us as slaves. I remember one of them, who even hates us even today, when my mother went to her family, I guess, to ask for food, she asked us to bring her a bucket that we used at home. Remember, we used river water, there was no tap, so we had a pinkish bucket that we used to keep the water that we would drink. So I don't know what was making her to spit a phlegm. She spat phlegm into that bucket and peed into that bucket. And when I told my mom, they verbally abused me. They physically abused us because we were poor, not knowing God. I fear God because people look at you, ill-treat you, and don't know your tomorrow, and they don't know that you have a God who can change the situation. I think in another video I've told a story where my sister was thrown at the age of 6 by my uncle, my father's brother, was thrown into the air, breaking her arm for laughing at her dog's vomiters. So we were those people. I remember there was an extended family relative who, he didn't really rape me, but he was he was grooming me at the age of 6, and that thing was pushed away from my mind, and I remembered it at my older age. I think I shared it in one of the videos. So when you are poor, everybody thinks they can do that to you. I don't want to talk about my parents who were the doormat at my aunts and uncles, paternal aunts and uncles. We were given food at my mother's home. We were given clothes at my mother's home. And we were supported at my mother's home because there was stability. My mother had a family that was stable, but they had their own problems. They were not going to carry us forever. You know, when they give us those clothes, those people in that house where they put urine in the bucket that keeps water, was supposed to drink in my home. They would borrow our clothes. I would refuse. They would abuse me verbally. My older sister was quieter than me. She would give them. Me, I didn't. Me, they hated me from a young age because I reacted from their behavior. I remember the other one, the silly one in the extended family, one of my paternal aunt's children. She's silly. You know, that woman is close to 60 years, but she can be silly. She can be silly like an 8-year-old. She poured water, hot water from my head downwards just to punish me. She never liked me. Even up until today, she thinks it's that time. She's trying her tricks. And I get worried because I don't want her to push me, because one day when one of them pushed me to the edge, I beat the hell out of her. So I don't want to be pushed by people who are older than me, who are close to 60 years, to push me to the edge because they are not happy with themselves. Because for me, it's okay if I'm here emotionally and they are here. You know, someone said it depends where you are emotionally or where you are spiritual with God, because they can do all those tricks, but if you are at the right space with God, or you are at the right space with your emotions, it's like they are farting in the water, but they won't affect you. You'll just look at them and like, what is it that you are doing? I thought you are better than this, and then you move on. Oh, is it you again? And move on. So let me focus on my story, because I've written a book about my story, the way we grew up in a painful way, the way one day I stole a fat cook for my sisters because the extended family would come and eat. My mother is in hospital. My siblings are hungry, would come and eat in front of them, fat cooks and their children. So my sisters would look like this when they eat, and look like this, you know, like when a child is looking at you, they are hungry and they wish you can share the food. So when I saw that, I stole a fat cook. You know, those idiots, because they heard the story, because I shared in the book, one idiot who can't think who is stupid, who stole a pie when she worked. The first job she started, she was chased away because she stole a pie. Before she got married, she was insulted by the neighbor and said, "Unebula." She will know if she listens to this who she is, because the neighbor said, "Tula when unebula." Then the day she got married, she thought she's a better person. She was raised by the people who are not her parents, because she's coming from a dysfunctional family, and she stands up and laugh at us, at our poverty. We might have been poor, but we've got a family upbringing. We have got a foundation, and we were raised very well. So let's go back to the story. We were even accused. I remember my father's brother's children, when they started alcohol, my sisters were accused of teaching them to drink alcohol. So everything that is wrong, the poor child was the one that has done it. Let's fast forward, because there's a lot, and talk about now a time when I was doing matric. I did matric and I passed. After I passed, I struggled to get a job, and I wanted to train as a nurse, because if you train as a nurse, you get money while you are in training, so that I support my family. I went, and then within a year I came back with no nursing degree or diploma, but with a pregnancy. I was the laughing stock. The relatives were laughing, and that time I was a new Christian teenager, new Christian born-again teenager. So I was the laughing stock. Nobody wanted to know how it happened, but they were laughing, making mockery of the situation. So I was humiliated, and my parents were humiliated by the situation, because I guess I was their hope out of poverty. The way I got pregnant is a story for another day. So I came back. I wasn't coping with the situation, and I went to the relatives that I thought they were close, but none of them received me. Remember the first one that I went to, she said her husband didn't want me in her house. Then I went to the other one. I was ill-treated in the other one again. The only people that accepted me were the Christian sisters in Christ, OCC, who were older than me. They accepted me for days while I was thinking of plan B, because I was humiliated already, and I didn't want to go back to my parents with a baby. And then what I did was, I went back at the right time. I went back home, and I left that child at home, and I wrote a letter to my parents, and I said, it's time that I go and try and reclaim my future. I don't know if I will be looking for a job or I will be looking for education, but I'm gone. Take this child to his family if you think that is in his best interest to do it. That time my mother is starting to get sick. My mother had rheumatoid arthritis, is starting to get sick, and she had a younger child, my late brother, that committed suicide in 2022. So I don't know what they did about that, but I left. The worst part with me leaving, the worst thing was I was living with no money. I was carrying a suitcase, a teddy bear, that's all, and an address of an uncle I heard of from my maternal family. I've never met him. I heard that he was in Cape Town. That's all that I heard. I don't know who gave me the address, so I carried that address and I went. I didn't have anything. My dreams were shattered. I didn't have nobody to care for me. I didn't have no support, and I was a young girl. I was not even 20 years old. The only thing I had was a dream bigger than me. And it is that dream that carried me throughout life and made me who I am today. You think things were better for me. I ran away to Cape Town. When I arrived, the bus arrived at about 2 a.m. in Cape Town. I took a bus at 2 a.m. in Cape Town. I went to the house. The people who lived in that house were colored people. They said that the uncle left long ago and he went to live in squatter areas. Early at 5 hours, pushing that suitcase to the squatter areas. I haven't even asked for permission to come. I was shown the shack where my uncle lived, and I arrived. I was allowed to sleep, and I stayed with them. I told them that I'm starting a job, so I looked for this address and all of that. That time, I don't even have a job at hand, but I want them to accept me, to say I'm promised a job. Then I started to kitsa. We call it tukukitsa, to look for a job. Okay, the uncle came. I told him who I am, who my mother was, because the uncle never met me. I was allowed to stay. I started to look for a job. I would go to a job and be fired same day. I would go to a job and be fired same day. It was that cycle, because one, I didn't know how to do domestic work. I would be employed in a kitchen. I don't know how to do domestic work. My life was a mess. And through that time, I rededicated myself, because I've been through a lot and I haven't been going to church for a long time. I rededicated my life to God, went back to church. In that church, we wouldn't wear earrings, we wouldn't wear this, we were wearing long dresses. Everything was condemned. Just to summarize me, I was too holy, closer to God. And that time I would go and pray. I remember there was a bushy area, an area with bushes between the squatter areas and some houses that were called Hazelden in Cape Town. I would go to those bushes, sit and pray and cry and talk to God and ask him, why am I going through this? You know, all of this is, I don't know anything about it, but I see that my life is a mess. I would say lots of things to God, threaten him, and that I would stop serving him if he doesn't do 1, 2, 3, 4. And I remember by now how I'm thinking, how God thought I'm spoiled, because God would keep quiet, because he knows that at the right time he will do things, you know, the way we've asked, or the way he wishes us to receive them. God, when we pray, always gives us 3 answers. It's yes, no, or wait. In all these 3 answers, they are at the best interest of us. If he says no, it's not a no to hurt us. If he says wait, it's not a wait to hurt us. Have you ever heard of a saying which says, God's delays are not God's denials? He knows what's best for us. So this happened. Come December, then there was a big conference organized by my church. I went, and it was in the Eastern Cape, where I come from in South Africa. So I went. I was too holy, but I was hungry. I looked Dandipalel. I looked like God or the world has forsaken me. And usually I have long hair. My hair was cut short. I guess I was ugly, even in the face. Have you ever seen someone who's in rags when everything is going wrong? I guess people were talking. I remember when I arrived home, I was carrying only few tinned stuff. I don't know where did I get the tinned stuff, and chewing gums for my younger sisters. What a humiliation. My mother kept quiet. My mother was a praying woman. I know she interceded for me. She kept quiet, but I was humiliated. I left again. She said, I'm not going, not this time around. I'm not going. Let me stay at home, because she saw my situation, how I changed and how bad I looked. She said I was not going. I wasn't gonna listen to her, because something in me told me that there's a bigger thing coming for me. But how do you convince people that there's a bigger thing coming for you when you are humiliated now, when you have nothing now? That time I don't have anybody. I had relatives who could have helped me, but nobody was willing to help me. As I said, I was helped by church people even when I had a small baby. Nobody wanted to be with me. Even those I tried to go and live with them, they would tell me, no, my husband doesn't want you here, because when you were a nurse, you didn't care about us. Okay, to cut the story short, I stayed for a few days. I ran away again back to Cape Town. This time around, God was merciful. I got a job immediately. After getting a job immediately, while my mother was starting to panic, maybe she was thinking I'm bewitched, I started sending money. But I only worked for 1 year. After 1 year, I decided I want to go to school. In my mind, I thought that I would be working, I would be at the university during the day, and at night I will be working as a nurse, like a carer. We call it a carer now, but a nurse is that looks after elderly people. It's a carer, or whatever you want to call it. So because it was the job that has employed me in a nursing agency. So I remember I went home and I asked my father, I told my father that I've been accepted to university. Can he sell a cow for me to be registered in the university? Father said, no, it takes time to sell a cow. You have to have a buyer. And I'm giving him a short notice. I go back to Cape Town. I have nothing, but I want to study. So I tried to go to work at night while I attend lectures during the day. No, it didn't work. I would be drowsy in classes and I wouldn't hear anything. Then I took a leap of faith and I stopped working and I focused on my studies. I will never forget the 3 months of hunger I experienced. For 3 months, I was poor. I didn't know what I was going to eat. I didn't know how to survive. I only got education. Ask me, I was still young, why didn't I get a sugar daddy to pay for my debts or to help me? Because I was young, I could have done that successfully. But it is the time when you question your identity. We all have different identities. Some things fit your identity so you can do them. It's your choice. But for me, being a prostitute or pretending to love an elderly man, or a sugar daddy, wouldn't have worked for me. I had to question my identity, and my identity didn't fit with that. Then I chose to be poor and wait for God to bless me with money. These things are in my book, by the way, the book that I wrote, Jenny. So to cut the story short, I got poor in that 3 months. No food, nothing, only studies. And then came June and I went back. That was February, March, April, May. Came June, after exams, I went back to work. Then that day when I was at work, I saw a newspaper. And then in the newspaper, there was an advert where they needed a live-in nurse. I applied for the weekends so that I can study during the week and weekends and go. So we went, we were many. I was the only black person. You know, Cape Town with bias or racism. I was a little bit hopeless because I was the only black person, but I was happy when I was told that I must stay behind. When I stayed behind, I was told that I need the second interview. I've made it to the next interview, which was going to be the next Thursday. I went to the second interview and I was taken. Let me tell you something. That job paid for my studies from my first year to my 4th year to the first year of my master's degree. I thank God. With that job, I ended up working with my sister, Zuki, and after we worked together, we managed to pull my family to pay for lots of things at home, to change the situation at home, to take my brother to the initiation school and to make him to have decent clothes. So I worked while I studied. I sacrificed. I didn't go to bashes. I was not a young person. I didn't have a life for all those years. My life meant university Monday to Friday, Friday till Sunday, a job. So I never had even a personal life. I was focused because I needed money to contribute for my studies and to also pay for my family so that they get food and so forth and so forth. And when that job ended, I was ready to work as a social worker. And I've worked as a social worker for many years now, and I've been exposed to many jobs, and I've got promoted. I've been a manager, and today I'm working overseas. I've traveled the world. I've been to America. I've been to Scotland. I've been to China. I've been to Dubai. I've been to Germany. I've traveled. I've lived life, and I'm happy. And all those doors that were closed to me and the words that were said to me. I remember when I was young, one cruel woman from the extended family was insulting my father because my father had a quarrel with her father. Then she saw me. I'm playing. I'm only 6 years old. Then while she was insulting my father, she said, "You are a rubbish. And even your children, they will grow up to be rubbishes and prostitutes." I knew that she was cursing me. And that time I answered and I talked to myself as I was playing with my little doll. I said, she does not mean me. Those words are not coming to me. I will not be a rubbish and a prostitute because I'm destined for great things. Today, those people are the ones who say I'm proud. I don't greet them because I did not become what they said I would become. I would be. Those are the same people who were saying when we are old we will be poor and we will be doing their washing their hair, removing dirt in their feet and polishing their shoes. But God, today they hate us. They can't even look at us. They can't even greet at us, and we haven't done anything to them. For me, again, they are not fighting us. They are fighting God, because when you fight a person because they are blessed, you are not fighting them. You are fighting the person that has blessed them, which is God. Therefore, God will deal with them, because God says in his word, when you touch us, you touch an apple of his eye. There is a God. Some people call it a universe. Some people call it Kamata. I call it my God. And there is a God in heaven. I've written books. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm helping people. I'm a therapist. And I'm working overseas. I'm no longer in South Africa. It can only be God. This poor woman has made it. I'm here to motivate you. If you are that young person who's like me, who had no hope, no future, no money, even no motivation, who got pregnant in her late teenagers and sex was forced on her. She was pregnant. Who was ridiculed and told that she was going to be a piece of nobody and will not make it in this life. And here I am. I've made it. You and me are who God says we are. And no amount of labeling can change that. Stay blessed. I love you. Take care. Please like, share, and comment so that I share a lot of these stories with you. Bye now.